You're watching BCTV. We're all about Brantford. You're watching BCTV, Brantford Government Television, a service of Brantford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Brantford.
Okay, we're going to get started with the Town of Brantford Board of Finance regular meeting dated March 23rd, 2020. And first on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the February 12th, 2020 meeting. I'll accept a motion to table that until the next meeting.
I'll move it to table.
Second.
Motion's been made second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is to open up the meeting to any citizens' comments with regards to the items on the agenda. Sir?
Yes.
Let me just ask you, if it's anything to do with the budget, there'll be a budget hearing, we'll follow this.
Say again?
If in fact you have a comment on the actual budget,
Yeah.
we're going to be moving into a budget public hearing soon. Okay?
Tonight?
Yes,
Okay, so there's...
just in a couple minutes.
Right, yeah, we pertain to the board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other citizens' comments on that? Then I'll move on to item number 3, is to consider and if appropriate, approve a request from the finance director regarding the issuance of a credit card and an increase in credit card limits pursuant to COVID-19 readiness. Jim, you have a request here?
Yes, there's really two parts to this request. The first one is a credit card for myself. I previously did not have one. The amount would be $50,000. And the second one would be for Catherine LeBanca, the Assistant Finance Director, and that would be increasing hers from $5,000 to $45,000.
Sorry, Jim, 45?
45,000.
Correct.
5,000 to 45,000.
Okay.
And you're the only authorized signers or users of that card?
Yeah,
Generally?
basically the way our process works is if we have to make a purchase on a credit card, we get approval in advance from the first selectman, and then we actually use it.
Okay.
So it's really just a means if we're not issuing a check or somebody needs something, they have to order something, and Catherine and I could do that. Hers, again, we're both going to have $50,000 credit cards. She already has 5, so hers is increasing by 45, and mine is a new issue. I want to underscore that this resolution, we put a limit on it, so mine would actually go away at the end of June, and hers would go back to $5,000. If we found that we needed to extend it, depending on the conditions, then we would ask you for another resolution.
Okay. I don't know if I have that resolution in front of me.
Hey, Jim, that'll be a total of 50 each? Okay.
Okay, so I'll offer this resolved that the Board of Finance authorizes the Finance Director to apply for a credit card issued through the Bank of America with temporary maximum limit of $50,000 for James P. Finch Jr., Finance Director. And the second resolution is resolved, the Board of Finance authorizes the Finance Director to temporarily increase the credit limit from $5,000 to $50,000 on the credit card assigned to Assistant Finance Director issued through Bank of America. Somebody want to move?
I'll move
those?
it, Joe.
I'll second.
Do you have questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all set with that. Thank you, Jim. Next, item number 4 is to consider and act upon the following proposed resolution. I'll read the resolution. Resolution with respect to the authorization, issuance, and sale of not exceeding $6.8 million of Brantford general obligations refunding bonds, authorizing combining into one issue and making determinations with the refunding bonds and any other authorized but unissued bonds of the town, and authorizing agreements for the investment of refunding escrow and its reinvestment over its term, and to recommend the resolution for adoption by the RTM. There is at this point, I'd accept a motion to waive my reading of the full resolution.
So I'll move that.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
And then with regards to this, to the resolution itself, Jim, would you like to explain the benefits of the refunding and what
Sure.
you are requesting here?
Yes, the refunding resolution before you looks at three previously issued Clean Water Fund obligations issued through the state of Connecticut. They were for upgrades to the treatment plant and also upgrades to pump stations in the collection system. The resolution on the refunding piece is $6.8 million. That should be more than enough to do the refunding. Additionally, and I think Charlie alluded this in a phone call today, which as I thought about it more, I better understand your question. It's also gives us the authority to combine it with existing authorized unissued debt. So in other words, we normally can always issue based on our authorized unissued, but we would do it as one sale. So by combining it with a refunding, that's why that language is in the refunding resolution.
Okay, and any other questions about this refunding? And the benefit to the town is you're saving interest over the term? extended term?
Yes, basically over the life of the outstanding bonds, the last projection we ran, and understand that the market is also very volatile. What this does is gives us an opportunity to execute this. Doesn't mean we will, but it gives us the opportunity to if it's approved by the RTM. And the run that we had done, we were saving close to $100,000. The other benefit of this is if we're doing new money with this for previously authorized projects, there's some economies of scale because you're printing one bond prospectus, one rating, so basically you're not doing two, so you're getting some economies of scale in terms of the production cost of the issue.
And the interest rate is you're anticipating is less than 1.5%
Correct.
net interest rate? Jim's modeling it at 1.344%, again, an estimate to come up with a present value savings. So, questions from the board on this?
I'll move it, Jim.
Been moved by Robert. Seconded by Jeff. Discussion, all in favor? Aye. Thanks, Jim. And thank you for continuing to watch the market and take advantage of it whenever we can. So, the next portion of the meeting is going to be the public hearings for the 2020 and 2021 budget process. And ordinarily, we go through a process of multi-nights, 3 nights of public hearings in which all the departments present their budgets individually, and we go through it line by line item. And in this difficult time, we're all trying to be as conscious and as careful as possible. We've revised the format, and this is what's constituting the public hearing. We've tried to broadcast it on the cable TV and Facebook and other media. The budget is posted on the website along with additional information that might become available. And what this does tonight is enables the town to move along with the budget process. So we hope to have a meeting to be determined after these public hearings, as we do in the past, in which we deliberate the budget and then actually make a recommendation to the RTM, who then can begin their committee process and then move on forward to return a budget to the Board of Finance, and we will set the mill rate and look at the revenues and fund balances and all that sort of calculations. And we hope to do that sometime in May. Again, we're going week to week and day to day, as everybody is, and we wish that everybody stays healthy. So to begin with, and to expedite as few people as possible in this meeting room, we're going to start with the Board of Ed budget. And so what we'll do is we'll have the Board of Ed, we will go through the budget, we'll ask questions, we'll have a brief overview presentation by the superintendent and assistant superintendent or finance director, and then we will solicit input from any of the public folks here. We'll also look at your operating budget, and then we'll look at your capital. So, Hamlet and Don, welcome. So Hamlet, if you'd like, again, with using the abundance of caution and time, but not to shortchange anything here, is that if you want to highlight the budget, and then briefly highlight the budget, and then any board members will ask their questions, and then we'll ask anybody from the public who has a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mooney. I hope, can everyone hear me? I just put the mic down here.
I think you're fine.
Thank you. This is truly an extraordinary time. In adhering to your request, the FY21 budget, as originally presented and transmitted in the transmittal letter that was dated March 1st, 2020, indicating a 2% budget increase that was approved by the Board of Education and then subsequently was amended to reflect a 3.14 increase. So the highlights that you had requested, the 2% increase is reflective of 5 certified FTEs being reduced in the budget, and that's certified. Overall, there's 6.3 FTEs being reduced in the budget. If we can talk about the certified for a moment, those 2 certified, there are two of the 5 are positions that we did not fill this year, and the other 3, one is a PE teacher somewhere in the system, one is a math teacher in the system, and the other is a world language teacher in the system. Those are adjustments that we are making throughout the district, and we feel that we can still appropriately program with those reductions. That ties into another highlight of this budget, which is the salary, which is probably the largest portion of our budget. When you look at that, is under 2% for total salaries. It's actually somewhere around 1.3% total salary increases. That's certified and non-certified. Certified, I believe, is 1.8 increase year over year. The other real highlight of this program is that it maintains our programming from last year. Last year, we actually added 5 teachers to the district. We added 4 elementary science teachers with your support and the RTM support, and that program is truly an outstanding program. We also added a world language coach, but given the totality of the school district, enrollment, as well as other factors, we feel very comfortable that we can reduce 5 FTEs certified. And that is something actually that I said last year, that I said we may have to add some folks, but then we'll continue to look at our head count, because that is the biggest driver. The other piece that I think is really of significant importance is the new methodology that, based on a request of the town, working with Mr. Finch and the first selectman, was the methodology of being rated together or rated jointly for medical self-insurance. That yielded a $656,000 increase to our budget, which is equivalent to 1.14% increase. What essentially that does, it permits both the town and the board in a self-insurance environment really to, essentially smoothing or spread loading. So if medical goes up, we all go up equivalently. If medical insurance goes down, we all go down equivalently. Working collaboratively, we felt as if that was in the best interest in the big picture, but clearly it's an added burden on the board budget, and it's also an artificiality when we start looking at per pupil costs. That's never going to be captured in per pupil costs. Although formulaic, you'll see that increase, and that increase will carry on, but it's not necessarily going directly towards pupils. And it's just something that we feel we're very supportive of. The board is very supportive of it. We work very closely with the first selectman and Mr. Finch to bring this model forward. Another question that typically is asked of us is what is head count? Our head count as of 1 January was 2,786. Same time the previous year was 2,833. That's about 47 less students year over year with the January count. That's 47 students spread out through the entire school district. It's not in one grade level. But nonetheless, you see that we are making some adjustments to headcount, given the overall trending data as well as needs. And lastly, I leave with the highlights. The district is at 44% high needs. High needs is defined as students that receive free and reduced lunch, students that are learning to speak English, and special education students. We're at 44%. That's a number that most municipalities are experiencing an increase. We have seen a sharper increase, particularly in the free and reduced population. And as a result of that, we need to look at our resources a little bit differently and how we apportion our resources to address what I used to call emerging needs. They're no longer emerging, they're here. They're here and we need to address them. And we see them very, very pervasively in this COVID-19 piece, where, just to give you a little of an anecdote, Monday, a week ago today, we served 22 meals the first day through the meals program. On Friday of last week, 4 days later, we served 254 meals on that day.
Amazing.
So that's just to give you an indication, and we don't have a count for today. But just to give you an idea of the, really what I would call precipitous increase in need that we have, and that manifests itself in the school district. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have, and I hope that I adhere to your time.
Thank you, Hamlet. Questions on the Board of Ed operating budget from the board?
Just
Harry?
one question. What are you planning in terms of capacity for feeding these youngsters? If our situation gets
In
worse.
this environment, right now, we are feeding out of the high school, and with Mr. Neal's leadership and Mr. John Terrain's leadership out of Chartwell and the incredible staff, if need be, we will open up a second site. Right now, initially we started with one, and we're measuring that, but we are prepared to open up a second site if need be.
Thank you.
Yep.
Charlie?
Well, you mentioned years ago the high needs used to be about 28%, then it went up to 34, and tonight you mentioned 44. Like, do you see any end in sight in this thing?
I see a leveling, and what I mean by that, one of the biggest jumps that we saw was about 2 years ago with the free and reduced population, when the state of Connecticut directly started to certify families. So anybody who was in, correct me if I'm wrong, John, anybody who was receiving benefits through Husky was automatically certified. So we saw a jump immediately with that, and I see a leveling off of that. But our special education population tends to be, percentage-wise, pretty stable, about 10-11%. But in our ESOL population, that's a number that varies. We've gotten as high as 5%. I believe it's right around 3.5% this year. But overall, I see a leveling of the free and reduced population, and that is the biggest driver of that 44%.
All right, thank you.
Joe, on that same note, Hamlet.
Sure.
That 44%, there's no correlation with the special needs?
No,
Okay.
no, none whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
So you're showing a large increase in tuition as a fixed cost,
Yes,
$424,000 additional dollars?
that is.
Touch on that, that's on page 16 of your budget there.
So that's, tuition is tuition that we pay for students that are not educated in Branford. Those costs continue to rise. Our number of students that we typically are responsible for has stayed the same, and this is in the special education, but we also pay some tuitions that are not special education. For example, the Educational Center for the Arts, I believe we have 9 seats there, Don?
That's correct.
And we have 9 seats there, so that's a program that we cannot offer here in Branford, that we avail our students to, but it's a tuition-based student. But the biggest driver in that is the tuition increases in special education.
Special ed, thank you. Other questions from the board on the operating side? You're good? All right, so we'll move to the capital, and then we'll entertain questions from the public. So your capital request is in the back of their budget, and page C1, and I see that it's a total request of $1,338,000, of which $810,000 is suggested to be general fund, $200,000 of debt, and $328,000 of lease. And so, do we have questions from the board on this? Any questions? Why don't we approach it that way to some extent? Questions? Charlie?
I saw it in here earlier, but there's $8,000 in 21-22 for asbestos abatement. Is that still needed? I thought we took care of all the asbestos.
We haven't. We still have asbestos in one of our elementary schools.
That's 2021, Charlie, on page C2.
Yeah, I saw it earlier. And
He's showing it in next year, 21-22.
Yeah, right, that's what it said.
So,
Yeah, but I thought we took care of it, so this is just a
So at Indian
placeholder?
Neck,
Huh?
the tiles at Indian Neck are the old-fashioned kind that they used to make with asbestos, so, but they're
I thought that was
starting
being
to
taken.
buckle and come up, and as they do, we need to remedy that situation.
I thought that was in this year. I mean, in the, yeah.
Yeah, so, in order to smooth the budget so much, we spread this request somewhat, we spread the request over 2 years.
Okay, all right.
I'm sure they'd be happy if we gave it to them in this year,
Yeah, all right.
if they needed it. But if you need it, you obviously take care of the repair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Questions on the capital request? Joe?
Hema, can you just give a little bit of detail on the architectural study at Sliney School, please?
Yes, and I'll start and then I'll turn it over to Don. And the architectural study at Sliney, this came up actually last year also. It was there last year. And the Board of Education is very, very concerned relative to what will we do with Sliney School in the out years when you think about the way that it's, it was originally configured for a high school. And really looking at the possibility of what can we do. I think what we need to do though with that study is really define what is the scope. And I think that's a really important piece, similar to what we did with the scope of the intermediate school when we started that project and defining, okay, what are we going to look at so that we manage expectations. But we do know that we need to do something there in that school. It has old metal high school lockers.
Sure.
The stairwells are not really appropriate for the age children that we have. And Don, I don't know if you want to add anything else to that?
Well, just say, as we can contemplate improvements to our elementary schools, we try to approach those with some level of equity, and there is part of this request is air conditioning, which is relatively straightforward for the other two elementary schools, but Sliney, due to the basically just sort of the design of the building being multi-story, and also because there is asbestos present, which whenever we do penetrations there, we need to be concerned about that. It's going to be more complex, so we want to make sure that we do it properly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question on that. How many classrooms, actual classrooms, are there in Sliney?
I don't know that number off the top of my head. We can certainly get that for you.
Would you please?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Victor, would you like that in an email? I can send it to...
Sure.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
So Hema, who's going to develop the scope of where that project's going to go, what direction? Is that your board?
Or
you're hiring a vendor to help you with that?
Yeah.
Is that what this money's for?
My experience in what we've been able to do here is to work collaboratively with the town so that we don't do it in a vacuum.
Okay.
The last time that we did something like that, we worked very closely with the town because I think when we start talking about scope of work, we also need to be realistic about how much of an investment are we able to afford.
Right.
Because if not, we get this huge scope of work. They do this study and they revise or renovate the school way beyond what we're capable of affording to do. So I think we need to manage that.
Sure. So is that with the building committee?
It would start with, actually, it probably would not. I don't think it would be a building committee piece. It may go to the building committee. Originally, it's what the board envisions,
Okay.
and not necessarily an educational specification which is required when you get an actual construction number. I think it would be short of that.
Okay,
But
thank
that's
you.
yet to be determined.
Thanks, Jeff.
I got one other question.
Sure,
Joe.
go ahead.
On a different item, the central air conditioning for the elementary schools, is that 200,000 for the whole school or a portion of the school?
So it's really 800,000 in total, and that,
Because it's over 2 years, okay.
over 2 years.
Yep.
So that we would intend to air condition the whole school.
Okay.
Thank you. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions on the capital items? Okay, gentlemen. Questions from, Jamie, you have any questions, or no questions coming in? Sir, you had comments or questions with regards to the Board of Ed budget?
Yes, thank you.
If you could come up and identify yourself and,
Sit here.
yeah, is there a mic there?
Yeah, you can sit there.
Sure, that's fine.
No, right there.
Sure.
It's fine. You
Stand
can-
there. It'll pick you up.
yeah.
Good evening. I'm Greg Gerolman, 160 Pleasant Lane, here in Branford. Had a son that went through the educational system, a couple of stepchildren, etc. I have also been a frequent speaker and attendee at Board of Education meetings for the last 3 years. I think some have said I've seen more Board of Ed meetings than anybody except for those on the board, or Mr. Hernandez, Mr. Neal. I have a couple of suggestions that I'd like to respectfully impart to you all as you consider Mr. Hernandez's budget. Some of these things are more specific in nature, and some of these things are more general, more macro versus micro, if you will. First off, a big part of what I've spoken about and look at in these board meetings revolves around one term, one concept. It revolves around transparency. Suffice to say, there's a big problem with that within the district. My issue is not with the Board of Education. I think recent changes in leadership have given more potential there, let's put it that way. But there is a tremendous lack of transparency, and it relates to budget issues. For example, one gentleman, it was, I don't know who, from this side of the room asked about why the increase in tuition expenses for the upcoming years. What hasn't been shared at Board of Education meetings and wasn't shared this evening is something that is available via public information. That is, a recent lawsuit was settled against the district, as I understand it, and that brought about, between legal expenses, awards, increased tuition reimbursements to a student whose mother is in the educational field, I believe about $500,000 over a several-year period. That will certainly raise the budget as to what the ask is for tuition reimbursement. When somebody asked Mr. Hernandez this at a recent Board of Education meeting, he was less than transparent about that. When someone asked him that this evening, he was also less than transparent. I appreciate his consistency. You all need to know the facts. That's why I'm here. Second is that I've also asked, the public have also asked various questions to the district at the request of the current chairman, Shannon Sharkey, in various cases where it pertains to numbers, where it pertains to legal fees, where it pertains to why aren't expenses brought out in a budget in line item form. They are not answered. Various questions that have been asked by myself through FOIA requests are not answered. This isn't my law, this is state of Connecticut law. And what I'm saying is, and I'm trying to keep this very monetary oriented and very specific to numbers, what it all comes down to is a lack of transparency that you all, in my humble opinion, need to be aware of. And I think it might be beneficial to consider why aren't expenses being imparted in the line item? Why are there certain categories that are kind of catch-all for different things? That's one thing. The second thing is from a more macro level perspective. Our school district, things that should be going up are going down. Things that should be going down are going up. The net effect is that expenses are rising, superintendent salaries are rising, administrative salaries are rising. People who choose to send their Brantford residents, who choose to send their kids to other schools and spend more money and drive more miles to avoid what Brantford is offering, that rises. What's going down are population, kids going to our schools, yet expenses are rising. The district has basically, over the past several years that I've seen, pretty much gotten the budgets that they've requested. Yet, things that should be going up are going down, things that shouldn't go down are going up, and he hasn't been shortchanged. I'm sorry, the district has not been shortchanged in terms of what the ask is generally. So, I understand that you all, by state law, you can't manage, this isn't the Board of Ed, you can't manage the district. I get that. I get that you can't cut the budget, but I think somewhere along the line, when one looks at the facts, and one looks at the numbers, as I've had the opportunity to do over the last 3 years, one thing that might be worthy of some thought and contemplation is, what are we investing in? Are we investing more money for the same non-dynamic return?
Thank you, Greg.
And so that's what I'd like you to consider on a more macro level and a more micro level. And I'd be happy to, if anybody would ever like to reach out, I would be happy to elaborate and color in the picture a little more. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for your comments. That's the purpose of the public hearing. And just for your edification, which I'm sure you know, is that this board does have the ability to cut the request of the Board of Education, and the RTM will have a process. So as much as we don't identify the particular line items for the Board of Ed, we appropriate or recommend a total number, which then is empowered through the RTM to the Board of Ed, and they're the ones that set the line items in fashion. So, we appreciate the comments from the citizenry.
And thank you for listening, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
You have a general question for Hamlet? In light of the COVID-19, can you just give us a short version of how the transition from classroom to digital learning has been taking place over the last week?
As you know, COVID-19 has presented challenges to all school districts in the state.
Correct.
We have implemented what's called Brantford Flex Learning Plan 1.0. Last week, it took us a pretty significant effort to prepare for that. We had to get devices into students' hands. As of Saturday, we issued devices on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We issued over 1,700 devices to students. We still have about another 1,000 students that we were in the process of reaching out today. We also started to ramp up distance learning, not distance learning, but remote learning. And that transition has started this week. And we have sent out, as of Friday, it was 9 communications directly to parents. The first selectman being one of those parents, laying out how that transition would take place. Students are going to be working remotely. There's structures that are being put in place, but there's also schedules that students will be on. We've had to enter into memorandums of agreement with bargaining units because the work conditions are no longer in the school, but they're in the home. So it's a pretty complex piece. On balance, I believe by the end of this week, we will have teachers and students actively engaged in that process. Today is day 6 of the closure, and we will probably have to make some adjustments to our calendar also.
I understand it's a new arena for the school system, so I just
Yeah,
want to
very
see
much so.
how we're progressing, if it's
Yes,
kind of...
yeah, we were very, very clear, total transparency, that we were not doing distance learning. Distance learning was tied to a waiver of the 180-day requirement and needed to touch on certain facets, both from an equity standpoint, union standpoint, as well as special education, and we needed to be able to demonstrate that. Since that was issued by the Commissioner of Education, the state of Connecticut has backed off and essentially has said, provide continuing educational opportunities to students. There's no longer a 180-day requirement for the academic year, and essentially ensure that you are building up your platforms regardless of where you may be. We're very fortunate in that we have devices to give to kids, to issue to kids. There's many districts that don't. So I think we're in a good place. It's less than perfect.
I understand.
Very less than perfect and full of opinions.
It's a work in progress, but thank you.
Okay, other questions on the Board of Ed operating or capital funds? We move on to the special funds.
Yes.
On page, for us, it's page 61 of our budget. And the first one is the adult education, and there is a estimated revenues of $68,500 with corresponding expenses of $68,500, made up of certified salaries $12,000 and non-personnel $56,500. Do we have questions for these two gentlemen from the board? Victor?
What's going to happen with the remote education in this situation?
Well, Victor, that's a very good question. The state of Connecticut has put out some guidance for primarily the diploma programs, external diploma programs, and equivalency type diploma programs. A lot of those courses already were being done remotely, so it's not that big of an impact. The budget that you see before you is the enrichment side of the budget. The academic side, that's embedded into our budget, but this is the enrichment. I do think potentially that, depending upon how long this goes, if it goes into the next fiscal year, we may see a decline in enrichment. And so, but again, this is a self-funded type program.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, any questions on this? Next would be the school-age childcare with estimated revenues from tuition and other minor interest income, $550,175, with offsetting expenditures of $522,053. So showing a net income estimate. And any questions on this school-age childcare? Anything you'd like to comment on that, Hamlet or Don?
Similar comment that this may, depending upon how long we are in the COVID-19 environment, that this we'll see an impact on this if it starts to go into July, because we do provide some school-age childcare and some programming over the summer.
Okay, I think we're all set. Thank you for
Thank you.
your presentations and your
Thank you.
attendance here, and be safe and good luck.
Thank you. Likewise.
I'm just going to send that to Joe.
Okay, back to the front of the budget. Actually, I'll provide an overview, which I could have done prior to the Board of Ed presentation. On page 1 of our budget book, which again is on the town website, we have a total total request of $121,434,765,000. And that represents an increase of $5,915,000. With estimated revenues of $13,296,000, with net from taxation would be an estimated $108,138,044. At this point, we're estimating, or we have a grand list estimate of $3,668,114,000, an increase of $102 million, or a 2.9 increase in the grand list. That would equate to a 30.16 mil versus the present 29.07. That would be a 1.1 mil increase, or a 3.8 increase in taxation. We're still estimating a 98.35% tax collection rate. So again, that was the highlight of the total request that we will go over tonight. And as in prior years, the Board of Ed does deliberate these through its process and then recommends a final number to the RTM for their consideration.
Board of Finance, right?
So we will start with what we're going to do is go through the budget book, page by page, department by department. And so we'll go to the expenditure side, because the revenues are presented here. I gave the overall highlight of the budget revenues at 13.296. Those will be finalized when the board comes back and deliberates, and when they finally set the mill rate sometime in May, or prior to the tax bills going out. So what we'll do is we'll go through each budget. If the board has a question, they'll let me know. If not, we will move on to the next budget. If we have questions, Jamie and Jim are here to answer those questions. If we don't get all the answers we're asking to the questions we're asking tonight, Jim will get back to us and share for any other additional information. So the legislative budget requested is $18,088, a decrease of $99. And I'll rely on the board to raise their hand or let me know if there's a question and they want me to stop.
And I'll move acceptance to the list.
Actually, we're not
at
going
that
to vote on that tonight,
Oh, okay,
Charlie.
okay.
So what we'll do is we'll roll through these.
All right.
And then at our next meeting, we will go through budget by budget
All right.
and either approve the request or make some adjustment either up or down based on deliberations at that meeting or anytime before.
This was a good budget, though.
Pardon?
This was a good budget.
That's a good, that you're saying that you'd like to see that as a trend.
Yeah, right. That's
Joe,
a
why don't
trend.
you Also give the page number when you're...
Okay, so page 11 is the next budget, which is executive. Total request of $373,575, increase of $161. As I will mention again, that all of these budgets are on the website or online, and if anybody requests information, they can hopefully get it with regards to individual details on the budget. Next is page 12, Board of Finance, $92,847, an increase request of $193. Next budget on page 13 is...
Joe, I just have a question.
Sure.
Are we going to do the capital all at the end in one lump?
We'll do the capital at the end.
Okay.
If there's something significant you want to talk about, like fire, police, public works or something, we could touch on that as we go through it.
Okay, I was just
But
going to,
If not, then we could deal with everything at the end.
okay, that's fine.
Okay. Board of Finance, we covered. Fiscal Services on page 13, request of $478,433, increase of $15,658. Majority of that is regular wages and salaries of 3.6%. The salary section is in the back of the book. Most of that is due to union wages or the, I think you had asked for non-union, there's the union wages that will kick in, and there's also a 2.5% increase generally. Is that what you?
2.5 for unaffiliated and 2% for part-time.
Thank you. Next budget is assessor on page 14. $451,679 is the request. Increase of $10,780. Again, regular salaries and wages, mostly driven by labor contracts, I would suggest. Next is on page 15, Board of Assessment Appeals, $19,228, increase of $356. Next budget is tax collector, request of $268,297, a reduction of $90,951, primarily for tax refunds, which is decreased by $70,000. Consulting services is decreased by $17,640. Harry?
And it could be, I could ask the question and have an answer at a later time. And the economic times we're floating into, collections may become a problem. So, I don't know, Jim, in terms of assessing our department to make sure we're on top of this, because that goes right back to the revenue side.
Yeah, I think that my take on it is that if they need to come back and need additional assistance, they do have, obviously they can lien the real estate. It's really a collection of the personal property and the motor vehicles, which may be a challenge. I would suggest that the first half, which is due in July, the end of July, is probably going to be all right because the banks have their escrow accounts and such. If there are challenges,
It can come by the second half.
The second half may be a challenge. I think what we'll do, again, it's the tax collector is an elected position, and their office is charged with the collection of that. I think we will probably have to monitor it as we go along. Jim, you have any additional comments on that?
No, I think, Harry's touched on something that we're all kind of concerned about with the changes in the economy, and yes, tax collections could drop as a percentage-wise. I guess one of the positives in that is the fact that we've done a reval, and so reval usually shifts to residential property, which tends to have a higher collection rate than the business. But again, the overall theme, I think, is spot on, that's something that we have to monitor closely because it is our largest revenue source.
And to your point, Harry, I think when we come back and set the mill rate, we're at a 98.35. That's something that we make sure that we're comfortable with that.
Yep.
And Charlie?
No, I'm saying that's something Jim and I talked about, the collection rate.
The collection rate, Bob?
Joe, so under the consulting services,
Yes.
So we brought someone on to assist in that area. So is that going away?
That apparently is getting knocked down to $17,760, so.
Basically, it's only budgeted for a partial year.
Okay. So that person is not,
They'll be staying on for the first 2
months.
months. I think we budgeted for 3 months
And that's it.
fiscal year, right? So it's a reduction from the current year, what was budgeted, but it's it really, because there's a reduction in time that we expect we'll need that consultant.
all right, thank you.
Again, Bob, if there's concerns that we have, they can also be addressed by the board at a future date. If in fact it's understood that they need more consulting services or other types of assistance, we can provide that.
Okay, thank you.
Next would be page 17, Town Clerk, request $268,321, increase of $9,257, $1,000 for professional development, and the balance is salaries, mostly tied to union contract. Next budget is legal services, request for $450,000, increase of $33,000, of which 25 of that increase is for tax appeals. Next budget on page 19 is labor relations, $62,500. No increase requested. Budget after that is probate court on page 20, $12,850. No increase requested. Next budget is page 21, elections, $175,022, decrease of $19,294, primarily under other purchase services, and the reduction in election workers. There is some additional seasonal part-time help requested. The net is a reduction of $19,294. Next budget is planning and zoning. Request is $321,242, increase of $7,629. All personnel-related costs. Again, subject to labor contract. Next budget is page 23. ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals, $9,057, requesting an additional $91 for the clerk. Next budget is economic development, request of $17,035, increase of $800, primarily or entirely for membership meetings and conferences. Next budget is inland wetlands and natural resources, a request of $133,944, increase of $2,426, $500 increase in professional development, and $1,676 for personnel-related costs. Again, union positions involved. Municipal buildings, next budget on page 26, request of $1,006,541, increase of $14,581, $55,555 for personnel costs, a reduction of fuel oil for $29,000, and an increase in repairs and maintenance of $38,000, for a net budget request increase of $14,581. Again, all the details are attached to each department primarily, so those again are available on the website or by contacting a Board of Finance member or a RTM member. And they could always call the finance director. Next budget is cable TV, I believe.
Yeah.
On page 27, request of $13,100, increase of $3,420. $2,000 is for donation expense. That's our contribution to the effort. Is that what that is?
This is, yeah.
On page 27,
Yep,
Jamie?
we're increasing.
Annual contribution.
We make an annual contribution to,
Okay.
because they're
That's
losing
our-
revenue through cord cutting, so we started.
That's
adding
our subsidy to them.
Right.
Okay, got it. Next budget is page 28, IT, request of $1,044,208, increase of $222,820. That represents a 27% increase. $7,750 is personnel related, and $215,070 is IT, which includes repairs and maintenance and service contracts. $94,000. Additional hardware is $17,000. Additional communication expense of $6,300. Technology acquisitions at $30,000. And software increase requests of $68,000. One of our larger increases. The detail, again, has been provided by our IT director, and much of this goes to various departments such as police, fire, and other tax collector and other departments. Next budget is human resources on page 29. The total request of $313,828, decrease of $13,739. Decrease in ADP payroll expense of $18,000 is the largest one. Employment testing is down by $3,000. Jim, what's the decrease in ADP?
My sense is that we went into using some new modules with ADP, and I think that was her estimate at the time, and my sense is that it came in a little bit better now that we have this thing running. So.
Okay, thank you. Next budget on page 31 is police. Request is $7,045,300, increase of $195,031. Increase is $175,349 is personnel related, and $19,682 is non-personnel. I may point out that the IT budget contains quite a bit of support for the police department, so that's something to understand as well. Although it's not included in their budget, it does support their operations. I believe that there are 2 new dispatchers involved in this estimate of personnel. Jamie, is that correct?
2
dispatchers. I thought I saw, if I go back to the personnel area on page in the 70s there. Let's see. Go back to page
74, is it?
page 78. I believe there are we adding any positions that we know of here?
Yeah, one of the reasons that the dispatcher increase is deceptively large is that that contract was settled as well as some of the other contracts, and you have not yet received a transfer to adjust the current year budget. So when you adjust the current year budget, that increase will be much smaller. It'll be more in line with 2.5.
So why does it have, when it says step, I see 4 to 5, these are steps?
Yeah, there's probably a mid-year step
Okay.
coming.
Yeah, ranges and steps.
So we're not adding any staff here?
No.
Okay. So it's really based on the fact that you had a settlement mid-year on this?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jamie and John. So that total request, as I mentioned, $7,045,000 for police services. Next budget is page 32 somewhere. Page 32 is special detail for police, $525,000, no increase. Again, there's an offset on this for revenues and expenditures are balanced as a placeholder for that particular expenditure. Next budget is page 34, fire services. Request is $6,675,982, increase of $209,588. $161,019 is an increase in the personnel expense. Hydrants are increased by $47,239 for water availability. That's the majority of that. And a large part of the increase is bringing on the firemen I think we would bring 8 firemen on through the grant.
Correct.
Yes.
And so this, again, we're ramping up the town share as we knew was going to happen once the grant starts winding down. Jim, is there any more grant money coming in for next year, or is it
Yeah,
done?
yes, there is. Yeah.
There's what, 25%, or what's it?
Yeah, it's about 200-something thousand. It's kind of a blended percentage.
Okay. So eventually, the next budget year, they'll be 100% funded by local dollars, or pretty close to it?
It'll be less, but I think, because it's it started in January, so you
Okay.
kind of got a little.
All right,
yeah.
so we're still
Yeah.
smoothing into it, as they say. Thank you. Page 35 is the building inspection and enforcement budget, $194,119 requested, increase of $1,858 for personnel increases. Next budget is animal control, which is a transfer out on page 36. $151,376, increase of $12,344. Next budget is Public Works. Request is $2,484,204, increase of $21,404. $3,047 is personnel related, a net amount. And other fuel is increased by $12,788. Road painting and signs increased by $5,000. And drainage increase on the line item by $2,000. Next budget is page 38, Water Pollution Control Authority, transfer out of $600,000, no change. Next budget is solid waste management and recycling. Request is $3,381,686, increase of $196,390. Increase in personnel request is $2,709. The majority of the increase is non-personnel, $193,681, of which $162,604 is material handling due to tip fees and other costs of disposing of recycling, paying to get rid of the recycling. Refuse collection goes up by $22,000, and condo rebate associated with the expended percentage of expenditures goes up by $8,000. Again, the request is $3,381,686. Next budget is on page 40. Engineering, request of $380,311, increase of $15,939, of which $13,000 is personnel services. Is there anything extraordinary about that increase, Jim? Or Jamie?
Well, basically, you have a couple of things. The town hall union contract settled, and then the assistant engineer is also moving through some of the steps. And again, once the current year budget gets adjusted, that increase would have looked smaller.
Okay.
Budget adjustment has been made.
Thank you. Next budget is human services. Request is $1,072,346. That is a transfer out to the special fund. Increase of $30,454. Next budget is elderly services. Request of $434,691. Increase of $6,355. It's all personnel related. Page 43 is East Shore Health District. Request of $269,722. Increase of $9,659. They haven't provided any details on their budget at this point, have they?
No.
No.
Not. So we just
Okay.
No, that's,
put in a...
So there may be some variability in this request, but for now, this is our best estimate at this point in time. Next is recreation on page 44. Request of $1,218,396, increase of $47,140. All of it is in weight and personnel costs, which I believe is adding a new person or at least a half a person.
Yeah, they're requesting a new position.
Yeah.
They're requesting a new position and folding in some others, I believe.
There's a current part-time position, so that's where you see the reduction in the part-time,
Okay.
and that was to offset the reduction to offset the increase of the full-time.
Thanks, Jim. On the non-personnel, it's a zero increase, but they're moving monies from utilities, water, gas, and electric primarily into repairs and maintenance. Next budget is on page 45. It is Young's Park Commission, which is a zero budget.
That folded into Parks and Rec.
Pardon?
That's into Parks and Rec
That's in
now.
the Parks and Rec, so that next year that will not show.
Right.
Budget after that is Parks and Open Space, transfer out of $26,800, no increase. Next budget is page 47, Docks and Recreational Facilities. Request is $20,192, increase of $2,221, $2,000 of which is for floats and docks. Next budget is Public Celebration, request of $35,219, increase of $5,076, $5,000 request to increase to cover the cost of fireworks. Next budget is Conservation and Environment on page 49. Request is $11,675, increase of $7,193 for several line items. Repairs and maintenance, request is $3,214. Grounds maintenance, $1,750. Supplies, $1,611, and membership and conferences, $600. That's it. Again, that was, previous budget was $4,482. This is a 160% increase in requests. Next budget is on page 50, James Blackstone Memorial Library, request of $1,488,962, increase of $45,000 over the current year. That would equate to approximately an 84.17% subsidy of their budget, which is close to what we've had in the past. They have a detail here of their expenditures. Next budget is on page 51. Willoughby Wallace Memorial Library, request is $250,268, increase of request of $4,331. $3,131 is related to personnel costs. $1,200 is non-personnel, $1,000 increase for books and library, books and materials. Next budget is page 52. Principal for debt service, request is $6,558,668, a decrease of $3,669. Again, to meet our bond and short-term and long-term obligations. Next budget is interest expense of request is $2,675,039, increase of $588,814. Primarily interest for schools, increase of $469,747, and another item of bond payments interest. Is that for your refunding, Jim, the $200,000?
No, that's a good question, though. The $200,000 was contemplating doing a bond issue in the fall.
Okay.
Earlier in the meeting, you approved the refunding resolution, which if we were to do that in the current fiscal year, and then combine it with some new money, I would need to add money to the debt service budget to accomplish that, because
Okay.
then you would have two semi-annual interest payments in the following fiscal year.
Okay. So you're anticipating that if the refunding goes through, you may need additional funds in addition to what's requested here?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Again, I'll hit the Board of Ed budget. We already had heard the detail on that, but the request is for $59,542,216, an increase of $1,810,616, or a 3.1% increase as was presented tonight. Next budget is pensions and contributions on page 55. Request of $5,446,424, increase of $389,490. That consists of additional Social Security costs of $86,872, obviously related to salaries. Retirement for municipal employees, $314,141, and retirement for police of $27,000, and a reduction in Board of Ed retirement of $38,890. Next budget is employment group insurance, page 56. Request is $7,389,656, increase of $586,002, primarily on health insurance premiums. And it shows a reduction in the transfer out to the OPEB of $218,000. Jim, the $804,000 increase in health insurance premiums, that's when considering being rated together with the Board of Ed,
Correct.
and increases that are recommended through the carrier to our third-party administrative folks.
Their increases recommended by our consultant to meet our self-insurance requirements. In that scenario, it is the blended rate, blended approach between the town and the Board of Ed. And it also assumes that we're funding 100% of claims. I know historically, you folks have been talking about some of the different town fund balances, and sometimes the issue comes up as to what circumstances may require us to budget less than 100% of claims. But right now, this is the 100%
This
of claims.
is at 100%.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Next budget is municipal insurance, request of $2,282,567, decrease of $80,190. There's an increase in the actual property and auto and general liability insurances of $104,000, but decrease in the transfer out to the workers' comp, so that there's a net decrease of $80,000. Contingency budget on page 58 is requested at $825,558, reduction of $32,411 over the current year amount. So that pretty much covers the operating budgets for the general fund. Why don't I go through the special funds, and then we'll hit the capital. Is that all right?
Fine.
So on page 60, on page 60 is the open space budget. And it has a budget request expenditures of $60,842, increase of $787. It shows revenues of $60,842. So these are self-funding, balancing budget requests, of which this includes a transfer in from the general fund of $26,800. And showing other revenues to balance the budget to equate to the expenditures estimated of $60,842. Next budget is on page 61. And I'm going through. Adult education, which we've already covered, along with the next budget of school-age childcare. So we've covered those two budgets. So we'll go on to page 63, which is sewer assessment fund. Requested expenditures of $14,926, decrease of $1,050,000, and offsetting revenues of $14,926, so it's self-balancing. Any comment on the reduction? We had taken that $1,550,000 out last year in order to move it into the capital expenditures for the sewer utility fund, correct?
Yeah, right,
Essentially.
in addition to the Riverside project and some of the other ones.
Right.
Yep.
Thanks, Jim. Next budget is sewer utility fund. On page 64, expenditure total on page 65, $4,607,967, increase of $72,330, of which increase of personnel expenditures of $58,641, primarily part-time help for $53,000, and other increases are consulting services increase of $10,000, utilities for $29,000, and sludge disposal of $46,000. Decrease in chemicals of $30,000, and decrease to the apparatus fund of $50,000. So the net increase in expenditures requested of $72,330. Next budget is on page 66. Animal Control Fund. Expenditures of $367,026, decrease of $5,006. No increase on non-personnel, and a decrease of $5,000 on personnel costs, primarily on their seasonal and part-time help. Next budget is page 67. Human Services Fund, request is $1,643,346, increase of $30,354. Increase in personnel expenditures is $74,954, and decrease in non-personnel of $44,600, for a net increase request of $30,354. Okay, that takes care of the special funds, and I'll move on to the capital improvement plan. I'll run through these and identify specifically what they are here. So there's section of equipment and services, total requests of $2,761,000, excuse me, $643. Let me just take a sip here. First request is for Coastal Resiliency Fund of $306,000, vehicle replacement for executive at $20,000, EV charging station, that's electric vehicle charging station for $6,000. Revaluation goes into the sinking fund or to prospective fund for $75,000. Natural Resource Inventory for Conservation Commission at $3,311. That's a multi-year request totaling $10,000. Senior Center Vehicle Replacement, $35,000. Sinking Fund for Fire, $300,000. Ambulance Fund Sinking Fund, $125,000. Radio Upgrade for Fire of $60,000, that goes into the Sinking Fund. Gear Replacement for, what's the SCBA, that's safety, and what does this SCBA stand for?
Self-contained breathing apparatus?
Okay, thanks. The breathing apparatus, $35,000. Cardiac monitor, $35,000. I'm sorry, the gear replacement was $85,000. Cardiac monitor, $35,000. Police cruisers request for $144,000. The related equipment at $84,000. Laser speed unit replacement of $12,000 for the police. Portable radio replacement for $9,132. Ballistic vests of $25,000. I'm sorry, of $8,200 for police. Public Works is looking for $25,000 for downtown center maintenance. Sinking Fund requested $225,000 for vehicles and equipment. Quick pole camera for Public Works of $18,000. Vehicle replacement for GGB, General Government Buildings, is $7,500. Pump station generators for WPC, which would come out of non-general fund monies of $50,000. Again, WPC, the waste treatment facility of Sewer Reserve Fund, $225,000. And their apparatus of $100,000. And gravity belt thickener of $653,000, which would come out of the sewer, that's the replacement fund?
Yeah.
So that's a sinking fund, Jim, correct? Engineering is looking for $40,000 out of the general fund for pavement condition survey. Blackstone Library is looking for, Recreation is looking for a dump body truck replacement of $40,000. Blackstone Library is looking for technology upgrades of $14,000, for security cameras for $22,000, and furniture for $20,000. Those were not included in the scope of the renovation. Administrative office for the counseling center for furniture for their office of $14,468. So that total for equipment and services is $22,761,643. Buildings, the next category, request is $2,785,000. Police Department is looking for moisture mitigation and cell block upgrade of $50,000. Roof replacement at the Police Department of $75,000, which is a multi-year request, totaling $150,000. Old garage roof replacement of $50,000. HVAC for town buildings, $25,000 request. Future energy savings projects of $25,000 for GGB. Animal shelter is looking for $2.5 million in authorized debt for an expansion of the animal shelter. That I understand that would be presented at there is information in the budget, and they would also need to come before our board for any type of authorization for debt, if in fact that moves forward. Above ground storage tanks for engineering, $60,000. That's a compliance plan. Jamie, what is that more specifically?
It's for removing the tank over at the PD and establishing an above ground tank here. So it will be for 2 tanks here, one for diesel and one for the gasoline vehicle.
Thank you. Next is, so that category is buildings, $2,785,000, primarily consisting of the animal control shelter of $2,500,000. Facilities is in the other category. Field renovations these are all recreation oriented, request from the Recreation Department. Field renovations, $20,000. Basketball, tennis court renovations, $20,000. Field fencing and replacement, $20,000. Park trees and pruning program, $20,000. I think he likes that number. And foot park tennis court renovation, $175,000. Vets Park light replacement program, $75,000. And Parker Park driveway of $95,000. So that total request from Recreation Department for $425,000. Capital improvements.
Joe, could we ask a question there?
Sure.
So on the foot park tennis court renovation, Jamie, didn't we do some of that when we took over the park?
When we first took over the well, there's two things. There's the, we spend money on, which we do every year, on the clay courts. And we that's probably about $20,000 a year.
Okay.
But then with the hard courts,
These are the asphalt.
we did resurface some of those. That was more just a crack filler, and it's similar to like if you were resealing your driveway type effort. This is actually a full reconstruction of those courts.
So we're going to pull them.
Pull them up, similar, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All set, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Regarding infrastructure category, there's a total request of $1,226,950. That's comprised of submersible pumps, wastewater treatment plant, which will be funded through their funds at $50,000. Sewer line manhole repair, again from sewer funds for $50,000. General fund open space request of $39,950. That's again, the details in the budget. That consists of a gate system. I think is it a half a dozen or more gate systems that are
several gates, kiosks, bollards put in place basically in their effort to increase the use of the trail system, primarily up in the north part of the preserve, rather to kind of mitigate the use of ATV traffic that's there. A lot of use is centered around the supply pond area, so they want to identify some other points of access, which currently exist, but make them a little more accessible for people to park there and then access the open space through the north.
So this is to protect the lands that we own, along with other, with the land trust and with the town, increase the safety for pedestrians as well. $39,950. Drainage improvements for engineering, $100,000. Supply pond dam repairs are $20,000 for engineering. Stony Creek Wharf reconstruction of $340,000. And $25,000 for local traffic authority projects. In addition, there is road improvement and resurfacing of $425,000, paving of town parking lots, $60,000, sidewalk replacement, $65,000, seawall repair, $30,000, and Stony Creek dock replacement of $22,000. That total, again, is $1,226,950.
I ask a question?
Sure, Vic.
Yep. With the price of fuel oil down and oil down to record lows, want to take another look at repaving? Is it possible that we can take advantage of these lower costs for road repaving?
Yeah. I'm sorry, you want to...
He wants to increase the
Paving.
coverage.
Yeah, with the price of oil being at a record low, it might be a time to repave more streets and take advantage of that.
Well, yeah. Are you basically saying because of the record low of petroleum products at the price of actually paving the asphalt.
I would expect it to be
It
down.
actually doesn't really follow as closely as you would expect.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't. And we still don't have the latest numbers from Tilcon, but yeah, I've watched the trend over the years, and the cost of liquid asphalt they use that blend it doesn't really follow, you know, the reduction in petroleum cost doesn't necessarily, you won't see that same percentage cost coming down on the price of asphalt.
Okay.
But, you know, certainly we are looking to, you know, increase our road paving program, and there's a slight uptick going on the years out, and utilizing additional funds. So I think, you know, to your point, we have to, I think the theme of what you're seeing here with a lot of drainage projects and some other projects, there's, you know, we're making some investments in our infrastructure. You know, we just went through a period of building, and those are very visible, and you see those, whether it's community center, Blackstone, or the school project. However, you know, we're still focused on our very important infrastructure, road, drainage, and sewer. And that's what you see. You know, this past year, you know, the board has approved some authorizations, and you're seeing that theme carry out through this budget.
Okay, thanks, Jamie.
Joe, I got another question.
Sure, Joe.
Jamie, where's the Stony Creek Wharf?
So that's basically, you know, where the tour boats,
Yeah.
at the end there. So that is in the town engineer and public works director went down there, and there's some, the concrete ramp that kind of,
Familiar, yep,
that
yep.
needs to be rebuilt, and the summer house, which they refer to, the summer house right there. If
Yeah,
you
that
look at the pilings,
gazebo, yeah.
Yeah, those pilings need to be replaced, so.
So that doesn't relate to the Stony Creek dock, or the dock's the finger piers? that
No,
are-
the dock is, yes, one of the big floating docks that, yeah, go out there. where we
Okay, so
have-
it's separate, okay.
So that is separate. The wharf is the actual, you know, attached to the land. The dock,
Okay.
22,000 is to rebuild the dock that we use, the floating dock.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the overview of the capital requests. And just to recap, that what we went through was, general fund was $3,570,000, potential debt issue of $2,500,000, other sources of $475,000, and sewer reserve fund of $653,000. So all of those totals for capital improvements for the town side was $7,198,593. And just to recap the Board of Ed request to finalize the capital side, that they had requested $448,000 of equipment and services. They had requested $625,000 for buildings, which primarily was air conditioning for the elementary schools, of $400,000. They had asked for a $50,000 request for Sliney School architectural study, and $80,000 for Indian Neck tile and asbestos abatement. They had asked for $265,000 of facilities, capital improvements, for lighting at the Branford High School, and some bleachers, for $55,000. And so their total request for capital items was $1,338,000. Of that, $810,000 would be considered general fund, $200,000 would be considered to be included in debt, and $328,000 would be long-term leases. So the total improvement plan, capital improvements, totaling $8,536,593 for Board of Ed and town combined. Again, those are the requests which will be considered by the Board of Finance and recommended to the RTM in some fashion. I'd like to point out also that on section 5 of the budget, starting with page 74, it provides good line item detail to some extent of salaries that were summarized in each individual department. I'm not going to go through them, but for the public and RTM members, there's the detail that provides, again, some transparency into the salaries. Many of them are subject to labor contracts and other management positions. What I'll do now is to go back and just summarize the budget requests. So I'm going to go back to page 1. And the total request that we looked at tonight and reviewed was $121,434,765 of requests for various departments, including operating and capital improvements. Increased requests from the departments totaling $5,915,378. That represents a 5.1% increase in expenditures over the current year. That would equate to a net increase in taxation of $6,855,000 and a possible increase in the mill rate of 1.1 mils. And we are estimating that there is a 98.35% increase, collection rate on taxes, on tax bills. With that, I'm going to begin to conclude the public hearing for the Town of Brantford budget for 2020, 2021. Any additional comments from board members at this point or questions? Jamie, any comments you'd like to make?
No, I just want to thank the board for getting this meeting in and your time, and certainly any questions you have, feel free to ask, or if something should come up later. And Joe, just to emphasize the point for the public's benefit, that if you go to the homepage of the town website, there's a tab to the right that has the budget there for their review as well.
Okay. Jim, I think we covered pretty much everything. Again, the details are there in the budget if need be. You have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think you covered it quite quickly and thoroughly, and there's some things we have to look at in the budget clearly, and we got some updated medical numbers a little bit better.
Okay.
And we talked a little bit about the self-insurance, looking at that, and I know the board has in the past discussed use of fund balance. I know you guys, that was something that I think Charlie, you and others mentioned at other meetings, so we'll see what tools we have available to get to a place where most people can be happy.
Thanks, Jim. And just to reiterate the process here, we're not in normal times, and we want everybody to be safe and as well as possible. So we're limiting the meetings and trying to do the social distancing and other recommendations that come out of the state and the CDC. We intend to move the budget to the RTM, so we will discuss with the First Selectman's Office and the Town Council as to how we proceed with our next meeting, which ordinarily would be a budget deliberation, which then would recommend a total budget to the representative town meeting, who then can move on with the budget process and get ready for the fiscal year, which begins July 1st, 2020. So with that, I will accept a motion to adjourn from the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Brantford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BrantfordTV.org.